he took a personal interest in designing and constructing the building and campus of the Milind Mahavidyalaya. Greater challenges were awaiting Dr. Ambedkar. He had a mission to fulfill. Destiny awaited him in Delhi. In July 1942, Dr. Ambedkar was invited to join the Viceroy's Executive Council as a Labour member. Dr. Ambedkar was elected to the Constituent Assembly of India in October 1946. His outstanding moment came when he was elected and made chairman of the committee to draft the Constitution.
We were knowing each other almost for 1 year before we got married on the 15th of April 1948. Dr. Ambedkar had taken over law ministry since 1947 when we met. And after my marriage, I was very closely watching him work on the Constitution. He was given the position of chairman of the drafting committee of the Constitution. And as a very important position as a chairman, he had to work very hard to see that all schedules and articles in the Constitution are discussed properly and all the members in the parliament know what they are doing. So his schedule for almost 16 to 18 months was very tight.
It was, however, ironic that due to want of backing in the Bombay Legislative Assembly, he had to be elected to the Constituent Assembly on the backing of the scheduled caste members of the Bengal Assembly. I know that today we are divided politically, socially, and economically. We are in warring camps, and I am probably the leader of one of the warring camps. But with all this, I am convinced that given time and circumstances, nothing in the world will prevent this country from becoming one. And with all our castes and creeds, I have not the slightest hesitation in saying that we shall in some form be a united people. Thus it was that on August 15th, 1947, India met her destiny and became a free nation in the world. Dr. Ambedkar, besides becoming the law minister in the interim government of Free India, was ordained to become the principal architect of the Constitution of India. The happiest person was Mahatma Gandhi. It was a proud moment for India, he told Ambedkar himself, that the former downtrodden had become the lawmaker of Free India. Ambedkar's extensive knowledge of world history, his profound commitment to the universal democratic principles, and concern for safeguarding the human and political rights of the minorities went into the monumental work of drafting the document. His reply in the House on the prolonged discussion of the draft is considered among the remarkable speeches in India's parliamentary history. When the Constituent Assembly, in the name of the people of India, adopted the Constitution with its 395 articles and 8 schedules on November 26, 1949, no less than Dr. Rajendra Prasad, President of the Constituent Assembly, and Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Prime Minister of the interim government, paid glowing tributes to Dr. Ambedkar. Mrs. Babasaheb Ambedkar says,
in 1951, in the Indian Parliament, a bill was introduced, which is famous now and well known by name Hindu Code Bill. And Dr. Ambedkar, being a law minister, he had to pilot the bill. And Hindu Code Bill, in short, is meant for emancipation of women from the slavery of Hindu society. And as such, he had great attachment and devotion to this bill. And he worked hard to see that it passes through during his tenure as a law minister. But suddenly there was an issue of elections in 1951. And somebody told Jawaharlal Nehru that if this bill goes through, the Orthodox society in the Hindu society would not vote for the Congress and he will not return to power. So Jawaharlal, by fear, and he told Dr. Ambedkar to stop the work of Hindu Code Bill there and then, and he said we will introduce this bill in our next session of the Parliament after election. As I said, Dr. Ambedkar was so attached and devoted and dedicated to this bill because it concerned the women and their problem. And particularly he was giving an equal share to girls along with the boys in the estate and personal family matters in the house. So Dr. Ambedkar was very much attached and devoted to this, and he has often told me and many people that Constitution is nothing compared to this Hindu Code Bill, and I must see that it goes through while I am Law Minister and in this very session of the Parliament.
That was the signal for another virulent attack on Dr. Ambedkar from Hindu Orthodox quarters. Most progressive sections supported the measures. Ambedkar's view was the bill codified and modified only certain sections of the Hindu law. The bill was essential for the youth of the Hindu society and the Indian nation as well. A disgusted Dr. Ambedkar finally resigned from the cabinet. I hate injustice, tyranny, pompousness and humbug, and my hatred embraces all those who are guilty of them. I want to tell my critics that I regard my feelings of hatred as a real force. They are the reflex of the love I bear for the cause I believe in, and I am in no way ashamed of it. Like all great men of the masses, always surrounded by people, Dr. Ambedkar sometimes found himself utterly lonely. This feeling of loneliness perhaps found expression when he suddenly started painting and learning the violin while in his 50s.
रेजाने आम्हाला दोघांना बंधूंना डॉक्टरांच्याकडे आणलं आणि आमचं ओळख करून दिली. तर डॉक्टर म्हणले, अहो तुम्हाला एक व्हायलिन मला आणायला सांगितलं, दोघं कशाला आणले?
The Sate brothers, who taught him to play the violin, say,
ते दोघं बंधू आहे.
it was an honor to teach this great man. He already knew how to handle the bow and the instrument. Being a methodical person, he asked for a standard book on the violin. We gave him one. He read the book through the night and asked for a fresh edition of the book. We were surprised.
The violin, how to master it, असं एक एवढंसं लहान चांगलं पुस्तक होतं, ते नेऊन आम्ही त्यांना दिलं आणि ते रात्रीच वाचून काढलं. पहिल्या पानापासून शेवटच्या पानापर्यंत वाचलं आणि दुसऱ्या दिवशी आम्ही गेल्यावर विचारलं की काय तुम्ही जे मला पुस्तक दिलं त्याची एडिशन किती दिली? आम्ही कुठे एडिशन बघितली? तुम्ही अहो तुम्ही ती 86वी एडिशन आम्हाला दिली. एवढं बोलून थांबले नाही. म्हणाले का हो मराठीत एक तरी पुस्तक असं आहे का की ज्याच्या 200 एडिशन पुढे काही निघतात? असं नंतर मग म्हणाले की आता काय करायचं? तर मग आम्ही त्यांना व्हायलिन कसं धरायचं, कसं शिकवायचं. अहो म्हणले मी इंग्लंड अमेरिकेत व्हायलिन पाहिलेलं आहे, मी बरोबर धरतो. मग त्यांनी ते धरलं बरोबर.
He was very particular about his clothes. He wanted very spick and span design, very well fitting suits, and is particular about colors also. He had a tailor, a Mohammedan man, who used to design his clothes and see to that they fitted well. One particular thing about this tailor, he used to design and stitch clothes for the Viceroy and the Commander-in-Chief of the British days.
The three ideals that he mentioned about were the Karna, Napoleon and Churchill. Now Churchill and Napoleon, we may say one of his contemporaries in a way, but about Karna, his father had instilled in his mind that here was a person who was all the way derided by people because he was the Sutaputra, but by devotion, by persistence, by penance in a way one can say, he concentrated himself on archery and earned the kundalas, Kavacha kundalas from the sun. Now here that his father had told me that you should keep this ideal before you. Never shirk, never be afraid, go ahead.
Ambedkar, in 1935, he had made a pledge that he would not die a Hindu. 20 years had passed. The obduracy of the Hindu society had frustrated him. His health was failing. It was time to fulfill the pledge. His grandson, Prakash Ambedkar, says,
the reconstruction of the society, he said, he has to be based on two aspects. One is the social aspect and the other is the religious aspect. He said, while taking social aspect, we have to take the linguistic, regionalistic and its culturalistic view into consideration. In India, he said that every community that exists is at crossroad with each other. And he said where communities are at crossroad with each other, they